Okay, today we're gonna talk about how to build our army, actually. So I'm just looking at this setup here and I'm thinking, what I would do with it. Like a few months ago when I was around the same power, so I had like 150 or 200,000 power, how I would approach this particular opponent. And I'm just thinking that perhaps it's time to make a movie when we can kind of break down some ideas. So as you see, I'm particularly here I'm using this particular setup because my power is just so much greater, so I don't have to be kind of careful for this. But if we come back to the basics for a moment, okay, and we do something like this and we think about it, we're roughly around same level which the Dark Army is currently. And because the particular setup of Dakini, which is the unit they have in the middle, the one swinging to the sides right now, which will move towards as soon as the battle starts. And then all the troops around you see surrounding those Dakini are the range units. So the idea will be for Dark Army to focus us right here. I hope you can see, yeah, you can see the touch. And our idea will be to kind of cover those two spots and place our ranged units somewhere here. So after we execute those Dakinis, they can just move this way. Okay, now there's several ways this game offers. While you have, depending what troops you have and how you like playing this game. I initially I wanted to be cheeky, so my initial setups was moles and the assassin ninjas. So I was trying to go behind the enemy ranks and behind the tanks to clean up first the ranged units and potential healers, which were, sometimes they're on the back. And then just demolish the front line, which not, it doesn't always works like that. So it's kind of good to know a few ways of approaching troops like that. So first of all, what we wanna, and I'm gonna give you kind of idea I use for, I don't wanna sound like super old person, but I played for a long time, and since the beginning of this type of games, we kind of developed this way of thinking, and I reckon a lot of people will agree with that. That ultimately you wanna have tank in front, so you wanna have a unit with big health, which potentially initially on the game that will be the one you have. Another tanks, this is pretty solid ones. I particularly like those guys. They look little, but they're very powerful. This guy's pretty right. I actually got enough cards to rank it up right now. So what else from the setup here we have? I'm experimenting with using these guys as tanks, but we're gonna utilize them later on, so I'm gonna leave them alone. This is pretty tanky as well. You can use this guy as tank pretty easily. Then, since the newest upgrade, Valkyries actually got some balls, so we're gonna talk about it a bit later on. And Armored Troll, yes, of course, especially if you have cards. And there is a little bit of controversy in terms of Armored Trolls because of different opinions of different players and mine in terms of troop tier list. Some people rank Armored Trolls as a S tier, like, give him number one spot, which I kind of didn't. And the only reason is because as a free-to-play player, I find most benefit to cover tank role with all the other troops you see instead of Armored Troll. And then if you look on the ranks I have and the amount of those troops provided by the game for me, you'll understand why I don't really like Armored Troll, because I don't really have opportunity to play with it when I have all the other, especially epic troops, covered pretty solidly and they do their job, so that's why. But overall, if you have opportunity to spend money on Armored Troll, he's amazing. That's, I'm not doubting that. And that's another tanky. Some people are using those guys as tanks. I don't really like doing that. They have good attack but not really strong defense. And also I have opportunity currently to play with this guy a little. He's still a baby, but you can use him as a tank as well. and I think we're not gonna go lower because there's no point. So that will be the tanks. Now the way tank works is mainly and only at this game, in this game currently, the way they kind of structure things, you need to fill them up with healers. Okay, so the healer will be another very important, I shall say, key unit to your setup. We're gonna show you the healers right now. So you wanna place, and then we're gonna talk about it later on. So I'm not gonna bother you right now with the placement of the troops. Actually, let's go this way. So from the healers, you're gonna have Water Maiden, you're gonna have Velifs, which they like, these guys. Then we're gonna have Clerics. And if you have opportunity and spend and everything, these guys are pretty cool too. If they're being developed completely to its full potential. So that's roughly 4 healers. Now, the way they work, I'll just give you kind of an example. If we place them between the troops, these guys will attack with front. These guys will be right behind, while these guys will be completely behind all the troops. This one will kind of stay like this. So you wanna pay attention where you wanna place those healers, because they're gonna roughly go with your army like this. So Velif will keep absolutely front line, and he's very keen to attack. The problem of his is that he's not really having much of health on his own, and his attack is kind of pointless. So he's there to mainly deliver a bit of entertainment and tickle opponents slightly, while the other soldiers of yours are smashing it. Now, little point to Velif: if you have opportunity, use 2 and then use them together in this or that setup. Also minding the fact that he's going forward straight away, you can try to cover your backlines, and then after the fight starts, he'll just join your front line and heal everything on the way. Okay, Water Maiden stays in the back, and she covers sort of radius like this, like a little bubble. So I like her because she stays slightly behind. She's not necessarily getting slaughtered as Velifs initially, and she will back them up and heal them up as well. So if you wanna use 3 healers or more, I would suggest 2 Velifs in a setup like I'm showing you right now, and Water Maiden behind. I don't really have much experience using this guy, but I know that people on the higher levels and on top of this game are using them quite a lot, and because all of them are using it, I assume that they're amazing. While Clerics are kind of special. I would say that they're support of support, you know. They will back up some of the troops. If you have only Cleric, obviously you don't have other choice, but you know, try to keep him back and keep him alive, because he can help out. Now, if you use Trickster, it's good point to put your Cleric here, because that's the only way he's actually able to heal Trickster, while Trickster will attack, you know, backlines right here. Now, we talked about tanks, we talked about healers. Now let's talk about what can we do behind that. Okay, so while we have this setup, wrong button, depending what kind of cards game offers you initially, obviously that will mainly define your tactic right from the beginning of the game. But you can either go full blown with melee. So for example, you're gonna have those guys. So this will be the troops which will participate in a frontline attack. Oh, that's not it. So all those guys will attack frontline and just go for it. We're gonna add this just so you know. This guy is going to do that as well. He gives rage. I mean, obviously we all know that. And this baby Oni. Yeah, using the opportunity. I just wanna be a little bit. If you follow my movies, remember when I was saying not to spend on this game because they will nerf Oni down when people will get overexcited and silly and start spending fortunes? I don't wanna tell you I told you so, but oh my god, I so did, didn't I? Now, I would suggest, if you dumped a big portion of your money on that character, to actually fight for this money back with your either app or Google Store. and try to tell them that the reason why you want this money back is because you actually purchased different product, and now this product is completely useless, and that's not what you paid for, and that's kind of not nice thing to do, if you know what I mean. Don't be afraid to ask for it. As many of you guys asks, as much as quicker they're gonna sort it out. Also, if you're long on the market, if you're a bit experienced gamer, you will notice that the company who makes that game kind of has those type of tricks from the beginning. So yeah, that's why from the day one I'm not interested to get involved, and I'm just laughing right now. On top of the fact that I'm trying to set up, against Oni from the beginning, so it just makes my life much easier. Anyway, coming back to what we were saying, these are melee units which you can reinforce. Like for example, I personally really like strict melee attack setup. So I don't have a single range unit, or I have this little girl, and we're gonna talk about it in a second. Okay, because she was the only way for me to go through some of the sets on 1 million plus power, because when she builds up those robots, she generates crazy amount of damage, and that's kind of convenient. So, but we're gonna talk about it in a second. So depending, of course, what you wanna do, each of those characters have their own special abilities, and we're not gonna talk about it right now, but that's something you can look into, or just simply check the movie called Troop Tier List, which I've posted some time ago, which will kind of talk more about it and how you can utilize it. But just mind that there are really nice combinations between some of ranged units and some of melee units, like for example Frozen Heart, which freezes a group of troops. It's really nice in combination with Ymir, who has bonus 50% of damage to frozen units against frozen units. So there is more combinations like that, so I strongly encourage you to read the skill descriptions and just click which troops are doing what, because there is strong groups of troops who are doing electrocution damage, or will make you bleed, or poison and stuff like that, stun. It all works together nicely if you think through about it. And maybe one day I'll make a movie about bigger tactics than what we're talking about right now. Alright, so after melee units, what I'll say is we have the ranged units. Yeah, let's call her a ranged unit. Oh, also we had the Kini before. Oh, there you go. That's strictly professional situation. She is also a melee unit, also attacking straight in, and she's pretty decent to defend your back, because when she gets annoyed and enraged, she goes very, very quickly on front of your attack, so that's pretty convenient. Unfortunately, she dies quite easily, so you want to have healers around. Now, talking about range units, you're gonna have those guys and those guys, and a little bit of those guys. Oh, come on, man. Well, I reckon, roughly, that's it. Yeah, this wizard is just for shits and giggles, guys. Don't take it seriously. I think I have some legendary which are really undeveloped, but I think, yeah, unfortunately I don't have the Thunder Shot, which is, I think, one of the top most amazing range units. Yeah, there you go. No, you go away. Alright, so after your tanks and your healers, and either some of melee units, I would strongly advise, if you have Barbarian or any legendary, minimum 1 melee units, you want to have it, so it actually can manage some damage on front and defend your front line and your tanks, kind of, by making damage. I mean, if you have only ranged units, obviously you're gonna be forced to use those, but if you have any melee, you want to have them there. Now, in terms of ranged units, I would say you wanna think smart and anticipate what the opposition does, because currently in this particular setup I don't have to defend my backline as from the troops of Dark Army right now. There isn't any single one which will try to attack my backline. I'm talking about like moles or Eras, samurais and stuff like that, which will try to penetrate the back. So currently I can keep the back open and just very, in a very naive way, I would say. What's important with those guys is that witches, they have extra abilities. Like, for example, she's boosting the attack speed of troops within the circle. So my suggestion is that if you use Elemental Witch, you want to have all the ranged units in sort of kind of setup like that. So she's boosting all of them, making your job a bit easier and quicker. Now, you can read the troop descriptions. Each all of them have their own special abilities. Again, combined with the rest of your setup, that all should work nicely. And that after that, I personally always like to be a little bit cheeky and add something which will distract. I mean, it's more about defining and splitting the troops of my enemy for me. So the troops which can do that are obviously all those guys. Some people are using samurais for it. I personally wouldn't advise, because most of those troops die very quickly against, for example, Ymir. A lot of people has already picked the fact that Ymir on the backline is next to Dakinis. I think Ymir and Dakini are the best backline defenders. Yeah, unfortunately I don't have those new legendary troops which are going on the back. I'm talking about Era. Oh, actually I have Era, but the frogs, I haven't been privileged enough to get them. Those guys are being used. I personally don't use them because they're fairly easy to kill, and initially you might come on sets with those guys. So those troops will go on the backline and try to do little damage there. Personally, I like to mix Trickster with moles, because every time moles pop out, they stun for 2 seconds, and if you do that they pop out one after the other, ultimately you can stun the unit. They will attack for 6 seconds, and within that time Trickster should appear in that group and do some damage. And when that works, he's practically covered by moles. If you do cleric here, they should be pretty covered with the healer as well. So that's a really cheeky, nice way to play those characters. Now, the idea ultimately of how you wanna set them up, it's what I'll say. I personally suggest setting troops. Okay, let's assume that we have those troops to mess with. What I would personally do with them is something like this. So Emirs will cover our backline. Those guys will pop one after the other, while the front is being nicely defended by this guy, which he will take the most. What we can actually do to be super cheeky is that. So right now, the Juggernaut is gonna take all the damage coming from Dark Enemy, while the other troops will just consume, all the other troops. Just so you can check it out. We have too much power in order for this set to have any problems. Well, I didn't even anticipate that the moles will actually make the most amount of damage, I think, from all of that. Yeah, but it's like I say, it's really cool because you can look on this game that is fairly imbalanced, or actually get a little bit deeper in terms of tactics you can use. And if I'm on around 800,000 power, I'm able to fight and win against 1.5 million power, but then I'm losing against 300,000 power player. It's not imbalanced. It's just the ability of my strategical thinking are being kind of slightly restricted, and you have to do something about it. So another way for looking at setup like that, let's assume that they're 900,000, right? So that will be a massive hit, and we don't really want to focus that much hit in one place because there isn't amount of healers which will be able to help out. So at that point, I'll do something like this. Now, because the ninjas will attack our backline, what are we going to do? We're gonna do something like that. We're gonna be super cheeky and we'll see that will the trickster do the job. But you see, the point is that we wanna spread their offense, and because they're not using healers and because it's 12,000 against nearly 1,000,000, I'm not gonna use a healer either. How about that? Let's make the job easier. It sounded so serious. I'm actually considering, look, let's make it less than 10 seconds. That'll be hilarious. It was less, right? It was 8. It's cute. Alright, unfortunately these quests aren't giving us opportunity and like a proper challenge. Okay, now this setup is going to encourage us to stay together. So we will. You see, ultimately, after several months of playing this game, I have like a universal setup. I have, and in my opinion, this is the strongest setup my troops currently can manage. But then I will have those options that I'll try to strategically adjust my troops and mess with them a little. So, pinpointing. You wanna have something strong with a big amount of health right in front. Right behind them, healers which will manage that health to stay high. And either if you have melee units or range units, you wanna place them there. Potentially with another healer right about, and some melee unit right at the back to cover your bum a little. And depending from the setup, you will learn with experience, especially on arena, because people in arena are very, very cheeky, and some of them are spending very, very smart ways. So they're gonna develop one troop which will look completely unexpectedly, innocent to you, and then you're gonna get whooped by someone with quarter of your power. So this kind of fights will make you think a little bit more strategically. Next time you'll see something, and you'll learn how to recognize those kind of setups. Some setups are just being generated automatically, and some setups are being built, for weeks and months while people are playing and observing the game, which is kind of what I'm doing as well. So anyway, I hope I covered all of the sort of concepts. That's mainly, this tutorial is directed mainly to beginner players and people who just started. But if you have more experience and you feel like you want to add something, please don't hesitate and do that in comment section. Otherwise, the like button is something you can use to let me know did you like it and enjoyed it, or rather not. So I'll either go and try to do more content this way or try to do something else. That's like a very quick feedback button. If you have anything else to add, or any cool feedback or not cool, whatever feedback, I like it, please make it in the comment section. I know you like my content, guys, there's no problem, I highly appreciate it, but seriously, if there is any feedback you have in order for me to make it even better for you, let me know, I'm totally up for it. And other than that, I wish you happy day, happy evening, or good night, depending where you are right now when you're watching it, and I'll see you next time. Take care.